What's going on, everybody? Ronnie DiMaggio here, product specialist at BMW of Morristown, and in today's video we are going to be doing an in-depth look at BMW's new operating system, iDrive 8.5. So iDrive 8.5 is just now starting to roll out. It is replacing iDrive 8, which only just came out a few months ago, but new operating system, iDrive 8.5, and in this video we will take a very close look at what's new with iDrive 8.5 compared to iDrive 8. But before we get in the car and look at iDrive 8.5, let's talk about which cars are getting it. So iDrive 8.5 is rolling out in production with July 2023 production on the following models: X5, X6, X7, iX, XM, i4, and 7 Series. July 2023 production and onwards with those models will get iDrive 8.5 out of the factory. Now, certain cars that are currently equipped with iDrive 8 will also be able to upgrade to iDrive 8.5 via an over-the-air update. So those are the cars that are getting it. Now let's hop inside and take our first look at iDrive 8.5. All right, so here we are inside of the 2024 X7. We're going with a handheld camera and the stationary camera, so hopefully we can cover everything as well as possible for you guys. But here it is. This is iDrive 8.5. At first glance, might not be a huge difference to you if you're not familiar with iDrive 8, but as I explain what has changed, you will come to realize that BMW has done quite a lot to make it quite a bit better. I'll come right out the gate at the beginning and say that I think this is a huge improvement on iDrive 8, which was already a really good system. So it's all good news here with iDrive 8.5. But let's go left to right and start with the instrument cluster, which is perhaps one of the least changed parts of iDrive 8 in comparison to 8.5. It's really just aesthetic. The font is a little bit different in the instrument cluster. I have played around with all of these menus and I have not found anything that is different for 8.5 in the instrument cluster rather than iDrive 8, at least as far as surface level stuff goes. There might be some little tweaks in functionality and things like that, but as far as things that owners will notice, I've spent at least an hour playing around with the gauge cluster and the center screen here, and I have not found a single thing different about the instrument cluster besides the aesthetics. But the aesthetics are important to note because you might notice that we're in an X7, but we have the M-themed iDrive system. So one change that I think BMW is making for iDrive 8.5 is the M iDrive 8, which used to be exclusive to pure M models, M3, M4, M2, I think is now trickling down into the BMW M performance models, M340, M440. This is an X7 M60. So that'll include X5 M60, X6 M60 as well, obviously. So before, an X7 M60 with iDrive 8 just had the normal iDrive 8 with sort of that beige blue color scheme, but now this is very clearly the M-themed version of iDrive 8. You have the red here, you have the M font for the temperatures, you have the M logo there, the M colors up here at the top of the rev counter, or the power meter, and the speedometer. So the M-themed iDrive 8 system seems to have trickled down into the M performance models, which is fantastic. I think that's so cool. But I say seems to because this is the only iDrive 8.5 M performance model we have here. I know M340, 3 Series, 4 Series aren't getting, except for i4, aren't getting 8.5 quite yet. So for now, I'm expecting that X7, M60, X5, X6, all the M60s will have 8.5 M, so to speak. And eventually I expect to see that trickle down into M240, M340, M440, which is awesome news. So that's the aesthetics. That's also going to do it for the gauge cluster. Really nothing to talk about here. So let's move into the center screen where the majority of the cool changes are. Let's start right here with the home screen. The home screen is different. So we no longer have the quick buttons on the side there. It used to be, you had your 4 boxes for your menu. Then you had telephone, media, and navigation, and then CarPlay down at the bottom. That's gone. Instead, those buttons have been moved to the bottom. Climate menu is gone as well, but we'll talk about what happened there. And the home screen is totally different now. So this is the first time in a while that maybe ever iDrive hasn't had a home screen that had different clearly segmented menus in either, whether it be widgets or the older iDrives had that list, like multimedia, telephone, office, whatever. It's a little bit, BMW calls it a flat interface, so everything is sort of one-dimensional rather than diving into sub-menus to get into everything. The things that you need are sort of on the surface already, which is really cool, and I'll show you how that works. By the way, if you're wondering, this is still a Linux-based system. Linux, don't know really how to pronounce that, but it's still based on that system, and iDrive 9, which is coming to the X1 starting in 2024, is going to be Android-based, for those people that are curious about that stuff. But let's talk about the home screen. So you're looking at it. You have the option to configure what is shown where the map is here. So you go home, and right now we have the map, and if I just tap on the map there, it goes into the nav where I have destination, input, recent destinations, and whatnot. But if I swipe over from the right, like that, or with the iDrive knob, click over to the right, pulls up this menu where you can change what this base background is. So right now it's navigation. You can do live vehicle, oops, or you can do media. So you have some choices there as far as what you want to be the base background. I think navigation sort of makes the most sense. However, this differs from car to car. In 7 Series and iX, aka the cars that have my modes rather than sport, comfort, and eco. So X7 has sport, comfort, eco, but if you have my modes rather than the basic sport, comfort, and eco, you'll also have the option to have my modes up here, and it'll show you this sort of artistic display of what mode you're in. I'll throw in a clip of an iX that has that going on, so you can see what that looks like. You see it just shows the background of whatever mode you're in, whether it be personal or expressive or whatever that may be. So that's one little difference from model to model, but this works just the same no matter what it is. You have your choice of base background there by swiping over from the right. So that's swiping from the right. Swiping down brings you to the revised shortcut menu. This still serves the same function for the most part. There's really no new functionality here, with the exception of your 8 shortcuts now showing 8 unassigned. Rather than where it used to be 4, then the other 4 would pop up when you filled the first 4. That's gone, but you have pretty much the same functionality that you always did in there. However, one cool thing that I noticed, that I can't remember if this was true of iDrive 8 as well, but you can add to shortcuts. Oops, that's not what I wanted. You can add to shortcuts without having a BMW ID signed in. I don't believe you could do that with iDrive 8, so that's kind of cool. A little for those people that don't use a BMW ID, you should use a BMW ID. It makes your life easier if you have a new BMW, but cool thing to note anyway. With the other parts of the home screen, on the left here, you have your configurable, I think BMW is calling it the action menu, but it's the sort of complement to that base background. So the base background is navigation, live vehicle, or media. And then on the left here, this square, which takes up a little less than, I'd say, a third of the menu, you can swipe through these different options to see what you want displayed there. So from the top to bottom, you have personal assistant, and then you can swipe within these. So you can swipe up and down to go through the menu, or you can go left and right to go throughout that widget in whatever part of the menu you're in. So at the top you have personal assistant, then you have radio and phone, then you have radio and navigation info. So this would tell you like when you'll get to your destination, how much gas you have, stuff like that. So some navigation extra data. Then you have a compass, you have your latitude and longitude if you want to get specific, and then you have another map. If you want to go double map, you can double map with iDrive 8.5. So good for those people that just really like lots of maps. And if we go one more time, you have the My BMW section. This is tire pressure, oil level, check control, and vehicle status. So if you want any of that stuff to be displayed, you can. And then if we swipe on that, we get our trip computer. So that is the menu over here on the left. I think it's much simpler to navigate than the widgets, and you had to sort of reorganize the widgets. There's no need for extra customization here. I suspect the vast majority of people will use phone, media, and map here, and that'll just be how it goes, and I think that's great. It's easy, it's straightforward. All the three things, you know, those are the three big things in a car infotainment system: media, phone, and nav. They're all right there, and you can change this to direction of travel if you prefer that, which I always do. So this is your base home screen. That's how the navigation of the base home screen works. Now, let's say you want to go beyond the home screen, which you always will. You have this menu down here on the bottom, where you can jump into your different sub-menus. So these are the same as they were when they were up on the left there. However, they're just moved down to the bottom and sort of reorganized a little bit, but let's run through these. So on the left, you have media. Click on that, and this is very familiar if you have iDrive 8 here, your radio sources. If you had your phone hooked up or presets set, it would say, you know, Ronnie's iPhone or presets, something like that. But click on what you want to listen to, and it starts playing through the radio. So there is your media. That's the same. Once you're in this menu, there is nothing different from 8 to 8.5. This is the same, besides the font is obviously different in a good way. I think the font's much cooler than it was before, but this is the same once you're in the menu. Same with navigation. So click nav, and you're in the full navigation system rather than, you know, going from home screen to nav isn't a big change because it's just the map regardless. But here you are in your navigation. Again, same as 8.0, iDrive 8. Nothing new for 8.5 in these different submenus. It's just how you get to them is different, except for climate control, so we'll save that one for last. Home is home. Again, menu, same thing, nothing different here. You can still reorganize it however you like, which is a really nice feature, but nothing different except for the way that these are organized. So it used to be all apps and then vehicle apps. Now you have all apps, infotainment, and vehicle apps. So it's just a little bit more separate and more well categorized, well organized, so you can sort of jump to the different apps that you want to use a little bit easier. Phone, nothing new. So let's go into climate control. This is where I think the biggest improvement has been made with iDrive 8.5. So we click on our little fan here, and this is totally new for iDrive 8. You can see that that is a completely new screen. That display is totally new. So let's talk about what's going on here. How do you work the climate controls? Well, for one, I found that it's much easier to work with the iDrive controller, which is a huge relief, because you could use the iDrive controller with iDrive 8's climate controls, but it was a little bit clunky, and it wasn't perfect. If you got used to it, it was fine, but it wasn't quite perfect. I think it's perfect now. I can super easily, you can see, pay attention to the red highlight. I'm using the iDrive controller here, just, you guys know how that works. Scroll left and right. I can turn off, I can turn back on, I can adjust my fan speed, I can go to automatic or fresh air. It's so easy to just breeze through all these settings with the iDrive controller. I can sync. The only thing I can't do is adjust the temperature, but set it and forget it. Set it to something comfortable and just leave it there. So it's much easier to navigate with the iDrive controller because these are laid out in a little bit more traditional sense. It used to be you had those circles that were kind of spattered across, well organized, easy enough. I had really no complaints with it before, but this is an improvement because this sort of looks like a traditional climate control system, just digitized. So you still have, you know, your recirculation, AC on or off, auto, air direction. If we click on that, this is how you control the air direction. So you can do, let's say I only want the upper sort of center dashboard vents. Go like that. That's dashboard and feet. There's your defroster, stuff like that. Your rear defroster still down here. So that's how BMW sort of intended the iDrive system to be, iDrive 8.5 to be updated, was to sort of take a step backwards in terms of appearance, but a step forwards in terms of functionality. So it looks a little bit more like a traditional climate control system, but it functions better than it used to. So it's a net positive in my opinion. I think this is a big improvement. It's just easier to access stuff. Heated seats, by the way, down here. Oops, tap on that. There's your ventilated seat, heated steering wheel, and a cool little functionality improvement. You still have your heated seat like that, but instead of having to triple tap to turn it off, you can just hold down and it goes off. Also, if you have an iX or an i7, this will have 3 levels of adjustment for your heated steering wheel, but X5, X7, X6 only get one on or off for the heated steering wheel. So this is the climate control. Big improvement aesthetically and functionally. I think this sort of makes more sense visually, and it also makes more sense from a functionality perspective as well. Right now we're in auto mode, and we sort of went through this, but if you take it out of auto mode, now I'm doing the fan speed here. I have it synced up, fan speed, air direction, and temperature. The 3 important things all right there. It's super easy, super intuitive, and a big improvement. Now you do still have your sort of extra stuff over here on the left. So this is where you can do your sort of ancillary controls for the heated seats. Do you want it to go to medium when it's on automatic? Your upper body temperature adjustment, same thing for the passenger, 2nd row, 3rd row, so on and so forth. I like that these menus are really truly just extra things now, whereas before your on-off button was over here, your recirculation was a sub-menu over here. Now it's right there. You just click on that, put it on automatic, fresh, whatever you like, and it's just easier to navigate rather than diving into a sub-menu to get to what you want it to get to. So that's the climate control. Climate control, in my opinion, is the biggest point of improvement for iDrive 8. I think that is where iDrive 8 needed improvement the most, and it's where 8.5 made the most changes. So I think BMW listened to the people. They listened to your comments on our YouTube video saying that the climate control was not great, and they changed it, and they made it much better. So kudos to BMW for being in touch with their audience in this regard, and making the iDrive 8.5 system a noticeable and welcome improvement from iDrive 8. But that said, that's pretty much going to do it. It's mostly surface level stuff, and it's mostly a matter of how do you access the menus that you access frequently, and how did BMW make it easier. That's sort of the main big ticket with iDrive 8.5. No huge headline changes or anything crazy. It's just a nice subtle change and a nice improvement that just makes your life easier. The home screen's a little bit cleaner. There's less diving into different menus to get to what you want to get to. The climate control is much easier, and in my opinion, the biggest thing here is it's so much easier to use the iDrive knob for, which I really appreciate because I'm not a big touchscreen guy. I like to use the iDrive knob for most things, so I like that they made that easier. I like that the shortcuts shows you all 8 now, so people actually know that they have 8 rather than only 4. It's all good. So that's iDrive 8.5. Also, can't forget to mention that the M iDrive 8 coming into non-full M models, if that comes to fruition specifically in like 3-4 series, I think that would be super, super cool. So lots of improvements there. iDrive 8.5 is definitely a thumbs up for me. Hopefully that gave you guys a good idea of what 8.5 looks like. If you have any questions, you want me to go through anything in more detail, leave a comment. Maybe we'll turn it into a YouTube short, or if it's a big enough topic, we'll turn it into a whole new video. But thank you guys for checking in and watching this video on iDrive 8. Like I said, any questions, leave them down below. We will get back to you. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at BMW of Morristown. And if you're in New Jersey, in the Morristown area, and you're looking for a BMW, stop by at 111 Ridgedale Ave, and we will help you out. So that'll do it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.